All right. Hi, everybody. You guys are asking great questions in the chat so far, and I think we will get to many, if not all of those questions. So during the presentation tonight, Deanna will be helping me answer those questions. So she'll be feeding some of those to me. So keep asking those, keep upvoting those. I am going to do screen share and share a PowerPoint with you. And the presentation I share tonight includes my contact information. You are welcome to reach out to me after the session tonight if you do have questions, because I understand sometimes attending a financial aid overview session just results in more questions. So let's get started. So as Deanna said, I work in the financial aid office, and the financial aid office at Iowa State is located on what's called like our main campus or central campus. It's about a mile north of the veterinary medicine school campus. But I am always available to vet med students for virtual appointments, telephone calls, emails. So I am still available to meet with you, even though I'm about a mile north of the physical campus. Most students get a hold of me quickest via email, so you're welcome to do that. And I'll follow up with you as soon as I can. So we're going to start right out with talking about financial services at Iowa State, because some of these questions have already started to come up in the chat. The first is clarifying, because this is confusing from one school to the next. What offices do what here at Iowa State? So the Office of Student Financial Aid, where I work, helps students with filing the FAFSA, creating financial aid offers with loans, loan action steps, and loan repayment. So the financial aid office is putting the pieces together with loan money and the FAFSA. Our partner office on campus that manages the university bill is called Accounts Receivable. So if you are a student who maybe wants to pay out of pocket, pay on a payment plan, or use a college savings plan, Accounts Receivable would be your best point of contact. At your school, it may be called like a treasurer's office or bursar's office. The billing office here is Accounts Receivable. The Office of the Registrar at Iowa State also assists with financial services. The Office of the Registrar assesses your tuition and fees. They also determine your residency, and they help students secure their veterans benefits. To start with residency, because I know it's usually one of our #1 questions, is that in order to establish residency at Iowa State, you would have had to have established residency at the time you applied for admission. At this point, if you were to admit in the fall 2022 semester, you would not be able to establish residency as an in-state student. The reason for that is in the state of Iowa, and the state of Iowa determines these regulations. You have to be working 30 or more hours a week. You have to be taking no more than 2 classes a semester. So essentially your purpose for being in the state is for employment rather than education. And you have to continue that for 12 consecutive months. Since this is a full-time program, you cannot go half-time, nor is it possible to usually work 30 hours a week. Students who start in the vet med program as non-resident remain non-resident the duration of their time. If you think you may have a reason to be a resident student, the Office of the Registrar is who to contact about that, or if you just have questions in general about your tuition and fees or residency. They also, like I said, work with students who have benefits coming that are military affiliated. So if you are a veteran or a dependent of a veteran, they are the point of contact to get started with getting your benefits to Iowa State. So use their email or phone number to have those questions answered. And scholarships are the last piece of this. So scholarships are awarded by the college itself. So what that means is here in financial aid where I work, I don't make those scholarship decisions. I work with the FAFSA, but your scholarship decisions are merit-based and talent-based. This first year, your application for admission is used to determine if you are scholarship eligible. So for this first year, there is no separate scholarship application. You have already applied, you have already submitted it. In all future years, our continuing students submit an application on an annual basis. So there is an application for currently enrolled students, but no additional application for you all as incoming students. And Deanna, can you talk a little bit about kind of scholarship timeline, what those are like, or frequently asked questions you get about scholarships?
Yeah, absolutely. So scholarships, like Tara said, for incoming students, it's based on FAFSA and the application. We typically see about 2 rounds of scholarships. One round, which are decision-making scholarships, so kind of larger scholarships that might make somebody think about like, oh, I could go here. My in-state or Iowa State is, close to what my in-state would be. So almost like recruiting scholarships happen right around the time that you get your offer. We'll have another round of scholarships that are still helpful, but they're a little bit smaller. Those happen closer to the start of the school year. So definitely beneficial, means fewer student loans that you'll have to take out, but they might not, kind of be close to the difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition. So 2 rounds of scholarships there. Those are all determined by our scholarship committee. So they're reviewing your application and your FAFSA in order to give out those scholarships. So last year, I believe we awarded $380,000 to our incoming first year students. So not a small amount of money. Overall, we are hoping to, by 2023, give out $2 million worth of scholarships. I think last year it was about $1.5 million in scholarships. So again, a good amount of money there. If you do have specific questions about scholarships, you can put them in the Q&A and I will try and answer them. But the expert on scholarships is Kathy Keel. You've probably received messages on your message board from her and even email. So I'm putting her contact information in the chat. So you are welcome to reach out to her with specific scholarships. The other place that I would look for scholarships is the American Veterinary Medical Foundation, avmf.org, and I'll put that in the chat too. That's a great place outside of Iowa State to look for those scholarships. And I think that that's it, Tara, but I'll stay on and try and answer more questions. So.
Yeah, thank you for answering those questions, Deanna. And so in financial aid, I'll find out about your scholarships, but I unfortunately won't be able to answer those questions for you. But tonight is a great time to continue to ask those using the chat. Another good question that came up via chat is if there's paid assistantship opportunities, and that's usually like the equivalent of a scholarship. So there are paid assistantship opportunities for students who are pursuing a graduate degree, like a master's degree or PhD at Iowa State. There are unfortunately no assistantship opportunities for the professional program. This also ties into work hours. Because of the rigor of your class schedule, work hours are very, very limited, or students are not able to work at all. And a component of having a graduate assistantship is working typically at least 20 hours a week. So if you were to pursue a degree in biomedical sciences, let's say, which is an example of a graduate degree at Iowa State, there may be assistantship opportunities. But in the professional program, unfortunately, there are no assistantships available, paid assistantships. Now, some students, like I said, may still choose to work. You can work, but with the rigor of your class schedule, a lot of students find that it's just hard to manage both, but you certainly could work if you wanted to. All right, moving on. So next we're going to jump into a big one, and that is the cost to attend for this first year. And so what you see displayed is the cost of attendance for a student attending this year full-time. And so the cost is broken down between a resident and a non-resident student. So again, our resident students are Iowa residents, non-resident is everyone else. The tuition and fees is assuming full-time enrollment for the fall and spring semester. And tuition and fees for the fall 2022 semester will not be finalized until this summer. The state of Iowa has a board of regents that determines tuition and fees for students attending Iowa State University. So we as the school, unfortunately, don't make that decision. It is determined by a board of regents. It is subject to change. This past year was the first year in several years when we had a tuition increase. Prior years, it has been small, or we have not had a tuition increase at all. At this point, we have not heard any guidance from the Board of Regents on if there will be a tuition increase or if it will stay the same. So unfortunately, we don't have those answers yet. The other component that you will be billed for during your first year is a laptop computer. I know you all have mobile or laptop devices now, but you will have a computer specifically for your program of study in the college. And this is a required purchase. This will appear on your fall semester bill, and it's a one-time charge. So it's a one and done $2,550 charge on your fall semester bill. You will be offered financial aid to pay for it. But that is a one-time thing you see. So for students attending from Iowa, their cost of attendance for this year was about $29,000. Our non-resident students had a total cost closer to $59,500. I'll talk about what billing looks like towards the end of this presentation, but this is for fall and spring. So half of this is payable in the fall and half of this is payable in the spring. Summer is not a required enrollment semester until you're in your last year, but not until then. Now, your cost of attendance will also include out-of-pocket expenses that we know you'll have to pay for. And these costs may vary, but we do anticipate that you'll spend about $9,300 a year for housing and food in Ames or surrounding community. That is a very reasonable budget to live on in Ames. What you'll find when you are looking at housing is that most apartments in town cover everything but electricity. There's obviously a multitude of different bedroom apartments to choose from, and some students may look at alternative housing options as well. So this, I think for most students, we consider it a comfortable budget to live on. You're not necessarily living in the Ritz, but you're not necessarily having to sacrifice a lot either. We'll also allocate financial aid for books, and then all other out-of-pocket expenses you may incur over 9 months, like airline tickets to go home or commuting expenses, medical bills, clothing costs, just the expenses you would have in 9-month period. So whenever you get your full financial aid offer from Iowa State, it will cover your full cost of attendance. Just remember that cost of attendance is not your bill. Your bill is your tuition and fees and your laptop. Students for this current year who are first year students from Iowa received $42,700 in financial aid. Non-resident students receive $73,100 in financial aid. So remember that cost of attendance is just how much financial aid you get. Your actual bill is tuition and fees. And we'll break down the different options to help cover this cost of attendance throughout the presentation. One of the most important things to do is to file the FAFSA. So I know some of you have filed the FAFSA before, others it's maybe your first time filing it. The FAFSA should be filed by March 1st, so you're not too late, you still have 3 weeks. If you want to be considered for a loan called the Health Professions Student Loan, and I'll provide more information about this. The Health Professions Student Loan is a loan for students pursuing a professional degree in animal or human medicine. Parent information must be provided on the FAFSA to be considered for the Health Professions Student Loan. The Health Professions Student Loan is funded by the Department of Health and Human Services. The Department of Health and Human Services has determined that parent information is required to determine your financial need. We understand that this can be a barrier because a lot of you are independent for a lot of reasons, or parents may not want to provide their information anymore for a variety of reasons. Unfortunately for this loan, there are no exceptions. You have to provide parent information for consideration. And again, I'll talk about why this is important here shortly and why we push for this type of loan. Now, if you're a student who is not able to get parent information, or you don't think you'll have financial need, or whatever circumstance you fall under, you do not have to list parent information on the FAFSA. Every single one of you are independent for financial aid purposes once you're working on your DVM. Parent information is only needed for this specific type of loan. If you don't think you'll provide parent information on the FAFSA, you can file the FAFSA after March 1st. So any time is fine. We recommend by this summer though, so you have ample time to plan for the upcoming academic year. And if you've already filed the FAFSA and you did not include parent information, you can go back and edit the FAFSA to add parent information. So it's not too late to do that. So yes, you can add parents to your FAFSA if you still need to do that. And then typically financial aid offers with all of your loan options as well as scholarships are available around middle to end of May. Now scholarships you may very well hear about earlier than that. Some scholarships you may not hear about until later in the spring though. The financial aid offer, though, is intended to offer you loan options and then scholarships if you're eligible to cover your cost of attendance. So just know you may not have to wait on pens and needles until the end of May to find out about scholarships, although some scholarship decisions may be made later. And then once you have your financial aid offer, you will complete any action steps online in a website called Access Plus to accept your financial aid, but you don't need to worry about that until after you have your offer. And next, I'm going to break down different types of loans and talk more about this health profession student loan because sometimes it is confusing. The one thing I haven't mentioned so far are grants. I do want to go back to that. There are unfortunately no grants for students pursuing a professional degree or a master's degree. So if you are working on a master's degree, a PhD, or any kind of professional degree, you no longer have any grant eligibility. So if you are a Pell Grant recipient or a state grant recipient, you will lose that grant funding when you go on for your professional degree. Loans also changed. So loan options will cover your full cost of attendance, but types of loans look different for professional students. If you are offered loans, which means you're a FAFSA filer, you always have the right to reduce, decline, or accept your loans through finals week every semester. So just because you get a financial aid offer next summer, that doesn't mean you have to decide right there that day. You can decide anytime during the academic year, although I would say sooner in the year if you know you need that loan money to help pay your bill. And then all of your student loans are repaid after you stop attending. For most students, this is when they graduate. Once you graduate, you will begin repayment on any loans you borrowed in your undergraduate and then loans you borrowed toward your DVM. And then if you did borrow loans for your undergrad or a program completed prior to entering veterinary medicine, those loans will be deferred, meaning you do not have to pay on them once fall classes start. So if you enter repayment, pay on those loans, and then once fall semester classes start, your loans are deferred, meaning you don't have to pay anything while you're in school. Types of loans you can get, and you'll see presented on your financial aid offer, include the unsubsidized loan, the PLUS loan, and the health profession student loan. The unsubsidized loan is a loan from FAFSA that does not require parent information on the FAFSA. PLUS loan is another type of loan from FAFSA that does not require parent information, and the health profession student loan does require parent information. This slide displays terms of the loans and different things to be aware of whenever you are offered student loans. The first big difference between an undergraduate loan and a professional school loan is the amount. So for most undergraduate unsubsidized loan borrowers, you're limited to no more than $7,500 a year in federal student loans from FAFSA. So $7,500 is the max for a senior. Once you're working on your DVM, you can borrow up to $40,500 in the unsubsidized loan. If you are a resident student, so a student from Iowa, that nearly covers your full cost of attendance. So you wouldn't necessarily have to use any other loans if that's how you're paying for school. This loan does accrue interest in school, and like I said, repaid after you graduate. The PLUS loan is another type of loan that is primarily offered to non-resident students because of the higher cost. And the PLUS loan is another type of unsubsidized loan from FAFSA that covers your remaining cost of attendance. You'll get the unsubsidized loan first and then PLUS loan to cover the difference of what's not covered. The PLUS loan has a separate application to apply, and that will be presented on your financial aid offer. If you apply for it and you're approved, you can borrow whatever is needed to pay for the cost of your schooling. This loan also accrues interest while you're in school and again repaid after you graduate. The health profession student loan, this is the loan that requires that parent information, is a no interest loan. So it is 0% interest while you are in school. If you are a subsidized loan borrower for a prior degree or are receiving a subsidized loan, it's the same type of a thing. A subsidized loan means it's a loan with no interest while you're in school. And then once that loan enters repayment, it will start to accrue interest, but not until that time. So the health profession student loan will begin to accrue interest at 5% 1 year after you graduate, but it is 0% interest until then. This loan also, like I said, requires demonstration of financial need, and it can vary, the amount can vary by student. Certainly students who have more financial need will receive more in the health profession student loan versus a student who has lower financial need. There's also the chance that if you provide parent information on your FAFSA, you won't qualify for the health profession student loan. There is no risk to you to provide parent information on the FAFSA, aside from not having enough financial need to receive the health profession student loan. Otherwise, parent information will not be used to make scholarship decisions or award any other types of financial aid. It's just for this one specific loan type. So we will not use it for any other reason. And then once you have your financial aid offer with your loan option or options, like I said, you'll take action to accept those after you have your offer. But these are the standard loans that students will use to pay for their cost of attendance. The other loan I didn't feature on here is a private loan, and certainly you could choose to finance your education through a bank or a credit union instead of going through FAFSA or in addition to FAFSA. If you do choose to fund privately through a bank, just know that those loans will be repaid separately and they may not have as many income-driven repayment options once you are in repayment. So make sure you're reading the terms of those private loans and learning about the repayment of those loans to determine if that's a good option for your situation. But certainly we do have students who may choose to fund privately versus through FAFSA.
Hey, Tara.
Yes.
There was a question on here about if you decline or if you get declined for the HPSL, you're still available or you're still eligible for PLUS or unsubsidized student loans, right?
Got it.
Okay.
Yep, you'll still be offered the other loans. Yeah. So like the worst case scenario with health profession student loans is that you don't qualify, but you would still be offered the other loans. No problem at all with that. Good question.
And then there's another question about the unsubsidized and PLUS loans accruing interest while in school, correct?
Yes, they do accrue interest while in school, unless there is a pandemic, as there is right now. I put it on there that they do accrue interest because they do, but as a result of the pandemic, student loans are not accruing interest through May 2022. We have not heard if that'll be extended, but yes, normally these loans do accrue interest in school. Right now, they are not as a result of executive action. So interest is paused, but probably will begin in May.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thanks for feeding those to me, Deanna. All right, so once you have your financial aid offer, you've taken action to accept any loans you want to borrow, we will disperse financial aid to your bill about a week before classes start. Now, I included the billing deadlines on here. Honestly, probably way too early to get too caught up with these deadlines, but just for awareness, your fall bill is due in August, your spring bill is due in January. Now, going back to the cost of attendance, we talked about how you have tuition and fees and your laptop on your bill, but you're still offered financial aid to cover all of your out-of-pocket expenses. So if you are accepting more financial aid than what you are assessed in tuition and fees on your bill, we're going to refund that extra financial aid back to you. That's how our students afford to live if they're not able to work while they're in school. So if you were to accept all of your loans, let's say you may get a refund in August of, let's say, $5,500, if that's the amount that you're choosing to have to accept and have refunded back to you. So if you get that $5,500 refund in August, that refund needs to last you through December, essentially. And then in January, you'll get your next financial aid disbursement. But you will have control over if you want to accept more in loans, you get a bigger refund or less in loans, or you don't need a refund at all. So you are in full control of that. But this is, like I said, how a lot of students will cover like their rent or living or personal expenses. And if you decide to reduce your loans and maybe see how you do throughout the semester, and it comes to be like November and you're like, I need this money after all, I can always increase your loans back for you. So you do get a refund mid-semester if you've reduced your loans. And so you are in full control of that as well. So it's not a one and done. You choose how you want to have your loans dispersed to you. But they always have to pay your bill first. So we'll pay you after your bill is paid. And then some best practices to try to reduce your loan debt if possible is to plan for your day-to-day expenses before you start school. So I know a lot of you may have been already living a student budget, or you may be budgeting without even knowing it. But recommendations we have are to kind of get a feel for what your normal out-of-pocket expenses are and determine if there's any of these expenses you could cut before you get to school, or if there's expenses you could pay with savings, with employment earnings from the summer, with a credit card, however you want to get these paid instead of using student loans. And obviously, if you're using a credit card, make sure you're paying that off every month. But there are ways to save money. Certainly cutting down on the out-of-pocket expenses is one of those ways. And then we recommend using your student loans or scholarships to pay your direct expenses, so your tuition and fees. Now, if you're a student and you don't need financial aid to pay your tuition and fees, that's great. But if you think you're going to struggle to get that bill paid, take the stress off of you, use your student loans to get that bill covered. So like I said, it's really hard to work and earn your DVM at the same time. A lot of our students will also choose to use financial aid to pay for their rent, regardless of where they're living, just because that's the other really big expense they have on a monthly basis. And having that stress taken off their shoulders, if they have a way to pay for that, allows them to focus on school. And we approximate about $1,000 a month just for rent and your cost of attendance. And in the city of Ames, that is very reasonable. Of course, you can always find a place to live that's more expensive than that, but you will find a lot of places to live that are well under that budget without having to sacrifice your needs either. But of course, it depends on what amenities you'd like in the place you're living in. And then our students here at the university do a great job once you're admitted, posting on like Facebook or message board are good resources of do this, don't do that. Here's what I learned whenever I moved to Ames the first time. So hearing it from them is really helpful as well. And then, yeah, I mean, I would say once you are offered admission, if you decide to attend here in Ames, to start looking for places to live and get a feel for the area. And then your colleagues like Deanna and Kathy in admissions and myself can also help to field some of those questions about what to expect living here. And then I've addressed many of these questions already, but I do think it's worth revisiting in case I haven't clarified anything or in case these were missed. So the first is the residency. Unfortunately, no, if you're not a resident, you likely will not become a resident. But like I said, if you have a circumstance that you think maybe you are a resident, run it by the registrar's office. Worst case scenario is they say you're a non-resident student, but it's worth checking with them. Grants and scholarships we've talked about. There are no grants, but yes, there are scholarships. You've already applied, you've done your due diligence this year, but like Deanna, maybe still look for those local scholarships or the scholarships through the Veterinary Medicine Association. And then if you feel like your cost of attendance won't fully cover all of your out-of-pocket expenses, just know we don't have a lot of professional judgment to increase your cost of attendance. But if you are a student who has kids and you have childcare expenses, let's say, or you have commuting expenses, maybe perhaps you are living in a surrounding community and driving in every day, or you have health insurance you have to pay for. Those are examples of things we can cover with financial aid that are not already built into your cost of attendance. But if your place of living exceeds your cost of attendance or your credit card bills or car payments, stuff like that, we unfortunately cannot offer you more financial aid for those things. So that's where if you think you may get in over your head with cost, maybe talk with me before you start school so we can talk about where you're at and ways to support you so you can complete your education during the first year. And Deanna, before I go on, are there any other questions that you've seen that would be?
Yes, there are. So one is clarification on the HPSL loan. So if you give parent information for that, will that affect your eligibility for unsubsidized or plus loans?
Not at all.
Okay.
We throw it out completely. We just use it like just for that one loan, and for everything else, we don't look at it.
Great. Fantastic. And then when do they find out about that HPSL loan?
It would be included on the financial aid offer. So mid to late May is usually when that's offered. And the reason for that delay, because at that point you're admitted, is we're waiting to get the finalized cost of attendance from the Board of Regents. Is hopefully we have it around then, not always, but that's the delay there is usually in the state appropriation for financial aid funds and then knowing your actual cost.
Great, thank you. Here's a question. Are rabies vaccines costs included in tuition and fees?
They are not. That is a very good question. So if you get those inoculations before you start in the program, you are responsible for those out-of-pocket costs. Now, if you get them at Iowa State through the Student Health Center, they will appear on your university bill. So like Student Health Center charges appear on your bill. We don't see anything about the reason you're there, but they do appear on your bill. We can adjust your financial aid for medical costs at the health center. Rabies vaccines are not cheap. So that is something we could adjust for. Now, if you just have like prescription pickup or routine visits, something like that, I mean, financial aid can't cover small dollar ticket items. It has to be something more substantial, and rabies vaccines fall under that if they're here at the health center.
Great. So then we've got a question here. Are all of the loans that you talked about tonight, are they eligible for the public service loan forgiveness program?
Yeah, good question. Yes, they are. So the unsubsidized loan, the PLUS loan, the health profession student loan, and if you borrowed any unsubsidized or subsidized loans in undergrad, all count towards public service loan forgiveness. The only type of loan that doesn't is a private loan. So going through a bank or credit union. But yes, they are all eligible and all eligible for income-driven repayment plans, standard plans, graduated plans. So once you're in repayment, you'll have every option available to you for all of those loan types.
Great. We have a question here. Do you still need parent information if you are a ward of the court for the
Gosh,
HPSL loan?
I wish we didn't have to, but yes, the Department of Health and Human Services does still require that. There is no exception unless both parents are deceased, which is very unfortunate, as we've had students who have parents who cannot provide information for a variety of reasons. This is certainly one more extenuating circumstances, and unfortunately, there is no workaround for that. There is no exemption made by the Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So in addition to HPSL, does Iowa State or ISU CVM offer loans for disadvantaged students?
Yep, that is part of the health profession student loan. So if you are eligible for the health profession student loan, you will also be offered a loan for disadvantaged students. I didn't include it on the slide because it's the same type of loan, just a different name. So yes, we do build that in as well. And that one I notify students about usually later in the summer. But yep, that will also be included.
Great. Do you know, so there's another question here about what is the housing market like for families who would move to Ames?
Indiana, you may have a better feel of this than I do, but we do have students with kids or with spouses or blended families attending the college. And I think there are a lot of housing options in Ames. We're a college town, so we have a lot of apartments, but we also have a lot of houses for rent in the community since we are a college town, and apartments that are more so family based versus a single person based. So I think there's a good market for it. Myself, thankfully, I have not had to house shop recently. But Deanna, what are your thoughts on
Mhm.
that?
I mean, I agree. I think, there are houses, yeah, I think the housing market is kind of, uh, uh, I think sellers market right now across the board. But
Yes, yes,
the thing about
indeed.
it is, so we do have an uh, mobile home neighborhood really close to the vet school, and there are homes there that have multiple rooms there. The veterinary students do a really good job of kind of keeping them up and making sure that they're nice for the people that they sell them to. So that may be an option as well. That's pretty, it's kind of nice because you do get to purchase your house, but it's almost a guarantee that you're going to sell it to the incoming first year students when you're ready to move on. But you are really close to the vet school too, so that's fantastic too. So the a really good question for our student panel next week. I know we usually dive deep into housing and what's available and where our students live and kind of their opinions about that. So I would hopefully check back in with us next week, definitely.
Yeah, yep, and they'll talk about their mobile homes because I think that may be unique to this school. I was also kind of caught off guard whenever I started working here, but the mobile home park right next to the college is probably predominantly populated by students in the College of Veterinary Medicine. So it's unique in that, but I understand that's not a good fit for everybody. The other thing is Iowa State does offer housing, not just residence hall housing, but also apartment style housing that some students may choose to live in as well. And so that's a preference, but yes, the university also has apartment style housing options available if you prefer that option. And the student panel next week, they're definitely the experts on the living situation.
They really are. They are, and they will absolutely tell you all of their opinions about it. So it's great. So I'm seeing a lot of questions about scholarships
Mhm.
too, but before we kind of dive deep into that, there is a question about so our HPSL and LDS, which is the loans for
Mhm.
disadvantaged students, capped at the school's cost of attendance.
I know what that question means. Yes. Yeah. So they cannot exceed your cost of attendance. So if you're a resident student, they can't exceed the 41,000 or the non-resident 72,000. But the amount is significantly less than cost of attendance. So for this past year, our range of health profession student loan awards were about $1,200 per student to up to $12,000 per student, depending on financial need. And so they're not as large as the unsubsidized loan and the plus loan, and they have to fit in cost of attendance. And then loan for disadvantaged students is a fixed amount of $1,000 for the year, for health profession student loan students. So that one is fixed. But yes, they do have to stay in cost of attendance.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Any,
then
so, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I only had one slide left, so go ahead and advance. So we can go into more information about scholarships. But recommended next steps for you all, aside from scholarships, is to make sure you get the FAFSA done. If you haven't already filed it. So again, March 1st is the deadline to file with parents for health profession student loan. Otherwise, you can file it anytime, even after March 1st, without parent information. And then if you are admitted, you'll be given access to a website called Access Plus. And Access Plus is where our students see their FAFSA status. It's where they pay their bill. Once you have a bill, you'll complete your financial aid steps online. Like in your current school, it's also like where you can see your class schedule appointments, that kind of stuff. So Access Plus is a website you will be given access to. And then if you are attending, we recommend taking action to secure any loans you plan to borrow by the end of July. If you know you need to use those loans to pay for your fall bill in August, certainly sooner would be better as well. And then I'm certainly available anytime to answer questions because I know this can be an overwhelming process. And so email me. I'm available for virtual appointments if you're here locally, in person. But yes, I will be a helpful point of contact as you're navigating next steps. And I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Deanna.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tara. So there were a few questions about scholarships. And please feel free to jump in if you have some good insight on this too, Tara. But so the first question is, are students awarded scholarships at the same time as their admission acceptance? Would having FAFSA done before next Wednesday alter those scholarship opportunities? I believe for that first round of scholarships, those decisions are being made or have already been made. So I'm not sure it would help with those kind of larger decision-making scholarships, but it would help with those smaller scholarships as well. So I would say fill out FAFSA as soon as you are able. And then, knowing that so though that FAFSA is going to impact any scholarships that are need-based, financial need-based scholarships. That doesn't, not filling out FAFSA until, later in March or something like that wouldn't necessarily alter scholarship opportunities that might be based on merit, or sometimes we have people who want to give a scholarship to someone from Southern California who is interested in dairy medicine. I'm pulling that out of my, my imagination. So don't hold me to that as a scholarship we offer. But so there are kind of specific scholarships there too. So whether you fill out FAFSA or not, you may still be considered for those. But there are those need-based scholarships that you would want to make sure you fill out FAFSA for. Are there specific scholarships for things like being an Eagle Scout? Probably. I would say, I would go ahead and use Google and see how many scholarships you can get from scouting organizations or any other organization that you might be a part of. I know every year we get an email from the Des Moines Women's Club. So Des Moines, Iowa is about 40 minutes south of us. There's a women's club that offers a scholarship, so we get notified of that. It has nothing to do with being a veterinarian or Iowa State necessarily, but our students are eligible for those too. So I would say anywhere that you can think of to find a scholarship, go out and search for it.
I would say, yeah, kind of along those lines too, is to definitely go out and search, but stay within organizations you're affiliated with. So being an Eagle Scout is a great example to look through scouting. What we see with a lot of those scholarships with an organization you're affiliated with is that they are limited to undergraduate students. And so I don't want you to put in all the time to apply if it's something that you can't use towards a professional degree, but it's worth checking, and doing a cold search on Google for scholarships is going to lead you on a wild goose chase versus if you already know an organization you're affiliated with, just go to their website or contact them directly to save yourself some time.
Yes, thank you. That's good clarification, is that you want to make sure that you're eligible for those scholarships. Absolutely. The same thing with scholarships offered to students who do not have a vet school in their home state. It's a great thing to kind of do some searching for. We don't necessarily have a scholarship geared towards that, but your home state, or even the Veterinary Medical Association in your home state, may give out scholarships. I know our Iowa Veterinary Medical Association does give out scholarships. So it's good to put that, kind of look in those circles too. I did post in the chat the link to our scholarship page if you have any, if you kind of want to see what scholarships are available for us. And then again, that American Veterinary Medical Foundation is a great place to find veterinary scholarships specifically too. I think that we kind of covered that one. Here's a question that came in. How do we add parents' information to our FAFSA if we already submitted it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you'll log back into your FAFSA, and once you're logged in, there will be a hyperlink at the bottom of the page. It says make FAFSA corrections or make corrections. So click the link to make corrections. It will have you enter your save key, which is a 4-digit number or something you provided whenever you filed the FAFSA. You can reset it if you need to. You'll provide your save key, and then it will take you to the FAFSA you've already filed. Once you're in the FAFSA you've already filed, you will go to the dependency section, or just click next on all the screens until you get there, and it's not that many to get there. Once you're on the dependency questions, you can then indicate that yes, you do want to provide parent information, and you can add away, and then just make sure you get that correction saved and submitted. Saving it is one thing, the other component is submitting it. So make sure you get all the way through, but get logged in, make corrections, get to your dependency section, and then you should be smooth sailing from there.
Great, thank you. I think we have reached the end of our questions. So I'm going to kind of go over some of the announcements that we covered in the beginning, just for folks who maybe logged on just a few minutes after we started. If you do have a last minute question on scholarships or financial aid, please feel free to put those in the Q&A box, and we'll kind of catch those right at the end. But remember to, if you can join us next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central, we have our student panel where you can learn about housing and how students, balance work and school and all of that kind of good stuff. So you can go ahead and register for that. That is the day after decisions go out. So decisions will go out at the end of the business day on February 15th, which is Tuesday. So we're less than a week away. Those, like I said, will go out February 15th at the end of the business day. And then you can always visit our YouTube channel to get oh no, I hit the actual YouTube channel link instead of copying it. So it almost started playing my voice, which is nobody wants to hear me more than you have to. So I'll put that in the chat as well. I do have a follow-up question, Tara, about the vaccine. So rabies vaccine is required. Vaccination against rabies is required for admission. And that, I believe, you either have to have that vaccine or you can have your titers checked for that. So if you go onto our website, you'll find an entering class information page. And it will also be linked in any offer of admission or offer on that, or invitation to our alternate list too. But you can find that information. But yes, it is a requirement. Okay. Great. We made it through all of the requirement, or all of the questions and all of that. Thank you so much, Tara, for being here and for lending your expertise and answering a lot of really, really great questions this evening. So I know the students really appreciate it.
Of course. And like I said, email me if any questions come up, and I can meet virtually or in person.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. Enjoy your evening and enjoy that, 5-ish day countdown to the offers coming out. Thanks, Tara. Bye.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.